So welcome to Bridging Worlds Animal Communication, Energy and Healing Conference. I'm Dr. Jeff Grognet, and with me is Sharon Kotsky. And Sharon is the CEO of Photonic Healing and creators of the Light and Visum Light. She's had over 20 years experience as a CEO of this engineering firm, and she combined her unique skills to develop the Light. And that has become an industry leader. Since 2012, she's dedicated her efforts to advancing the Light and now focuses on offering high-quality tools and training. Sharon has shared her innovations at pet expos and events across both US and Canada. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. We're excited to share our information anytime we get a chance to. So.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, your topic is really neat because we're moving into, I'll call it the light therapy. And there's a fair bit of confusion out there: laser therapy, light therapy, and blinking lights, not blinking lights, whatever. And so you're going to sort of unravel this for us, aren't you?
I'm going to do the best that I can and try to keep it from being really technical and granular because that only appeals to a few people. We're going to try to keep it as real as we possibly can. So with that, I'd like to share a PowerPoint presentation that I've put together that kind of puts all this together for us and gives us a place to start talking. How's that?
Okay, let's go for it.
So welcome to using light and sound energy to help you and your pet live pain-free. If that sounds exciting to you, well, let's just dive in and get right into the topics here.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Using something so innocuous to help our ailing friends.
So my question to you basically is, does your dog, your cat, any pet that you have, we have worked on turtles, snakes, goldfish, chickens, rabbits, along with our household pets. Well, those are household pets actually for a lot of people. But do they suffer from any of these? Do they have allergies, which usually comes with hot spots and skin issues? Do they have joint pain? That usually comes along with arthritis the older we get. There's just some breeds that are prone to having things like that, like ACL tears and hip dysplasia. I mean, they're breeding animals these days in ways that they're just going to have problems as they get older. I mean, think about the corgis and the dachshunds that have the long back, and their whole life, their world is with their head looking up at, and so they're going to have cervical things that go on. They're just predispositioned to that. So we want to help prevent injuries, and we want to help after the injuries occur. So one of the big things that we also get involved in is wound healing and surgical recovery. All of this is non-invasive, it's all natural, and it's drug-free. So what started this journey with me was in 1999, I was working with my horse Sport. It's hard for me to talk about this sometimes because I don't have him anymore. But when I had him, I was working with him in a program of natural horsemanship. And this program did phenomenal things for our relationship. And it opened up a whole new world to me. And I was watching my coach work with a vet on TV with a little red light, a little red pen, and he was working on this horse, and he was working on acupressure points. I'm an engineer. I didn't know what acupressure points were. I was completely lost, but it didn't matter to me. I saw the changes in that horse on TV, and I thought, wow, if it works for that, I want to get one. So I got it, and I put it right where they, it turned out to be an acupressure point. I didn't understand that. The book was very overwhelming to me. I, as an engineer, had never taken biology, anatomy, physiology, any of those things. So when it started talking about livers and bladders and kidneys, I'm like, I don't even know where those are. So it took me a bit to get on board with understanding that part of this. But the I would take this out, I'd play with it at my coffee table, and I'd go through the book a little bit, and I'd work with it, and it never failed. But my cat would show up. And I'm like, how do you even know this is on? This isn't the tool. At the time, it was a different one, but it wouldn't make any noise when it was turned on. It would click when it shut off, but when it came to turning it on, how did she know? She would come from the other end of the house. Well, I now know that they can hear the frequency, and that there is a frequency even though we don't hear it. And I would offer this light to the cat, and she'd rub all over it, and then she'd leave. And I thought, that's interesting, because animals can't lie. There's got to be something to this. So I eventually got around to taking it to my horse. I put it on what I now know is bladder 13, which is the base of his withers. And I turned it on. His head dropped, his tail lifted, his body shook, and he turned around and he looked at me, and I was like, you can feel this? You're a 1,000-pound horse and you can feel it? I can't feel this. You can feel it? That's very interesting, because again, animals can't lie, right? So I started working on people's horses. Of course, I have my engineering business going, so this was a side hobby for me for quite some time. And every horse would come with somebody holding it and a person there. So they would say, well, what about me? I'm like, oh no, nothing. You can't work on you. So if it doesn't work on you, or if you can't feel it, how can it work on you? And they'd like, no, really, my elbow hurts. I'm a farrier. So I'd work on their elbow, and they'd go, wow. And I'd go, really? And that started my belief system coming back. So I'll take a skeptic any day. I was a believer who lost my belief, really thought that was the dumbest thing I ever spent my money on, because I didn't understand it. And I'm where I'm at today because it works, because I've seen it work. I've watched it work. I've watched the animals come back and talk to me after, they communicate. This horse opened my life, and I am so forever grateful for him. But there are two key reasons that you should add light therapy into your at-home routines, okay? First of all, it's going to improve your health, your personal health, your family, all of our fur friends. All living beings require the energy of light. It's a nutrient, just like water, just like food. We can't survive without light. And the second is that you can lower your expenses for drugs and doctors and vets. I mean, you can take care of all of your day-to-day minor emergencies. Anything big, you're still going to need some help with that. But your minor emergencies and your overall base health and wellness of your life with a tool that's going to last you for decades. And that tool is called photobiomodulation. Now, that's a big word, okay? We call it PBM for short. But several years ago, the industry leaders came together and said, we need a term that's going to clarify what this really is. It used to be LLLT. Well, people didn't know if that was low-level laser therapy, low-level light therapy, cold laser therapy. They didn't really understand what those terms were. So they've settled on photobiomodulation. So what does that mean? Photo is light. Bio is our cells in our body. And modulation is basically the interaction between the photons and the mitochondria in the cells. Okay. So PBM is the application of applying lights of specific wavelengths to the body. Traditionally, those have been the colors of red and infrared. Now we're working with blue, but more recently, they've started discovering green and yellow, and they're finding out the phenomenal effects that those colors have as well. So what is the difference between LED and laser? Okay, the LED is a light emitting diode. Laser stands for light amplification by the stimulated emission of radiation. So that's a lot to think about. But you don't want to get afraid by that, because lasers also come in a wide range of power intensities, from something as benign as our little pen pointer that we use when we're doing presentations to something very significant, such as a tool for surgery or a tattoo removal. So there's a big range in lasers. When someone says that they have a laser, it's like saying I drive a car. Okay, great. You're going down the road on 4 wheels instead of 2. That's really all you know. You don't know any more than that. With an LED, the range is not like that. They're all safe. They've been deemed safe. They were first discovered by NASA, kind of by accident in space, when the astronauts in space, they don't heal. You need gravity to heal. And so the astronauts up there were sitting around and they're like, hey, your hands are healing. What are you doing that I'm not doing with my nicks on? And they said, well, I'm tending to the plants that are being grown under red light. So just the application of those hands going in this area helped heal. And there's a whole story. You can read the whole article about that in this NASA link that I've got right here. And it just talks about how that happened. And that just started this whole world of what do we have here? You know, what kind of power do we really have here? So when we get back to talking about LED and lasers, because that's a big thing that people have questions about, basically, you know, what's the difference in these? I'm an LED person. I've been using LEDs for 25 years, massive success with them, keeping my costs down. An LED is a non-coherent light. So as the light beams come out, they scatter and they cover a larger area. Where a laser is a coherent light, all those beams are combined together and they come out in one long straight shot, okay, until it hits the body and it hits the tissue and it scatters. That is something that we could talk about another time, but they both become non-coherent once that hits the body. So you don't need to spend that extra money getting a laser when they're going to do the same thing once they get to the body. So an LED can influence a larger area where a laser is a small spot size. LEDs are considered low risk by the FDA. They've got a whole policy now called their low general wellness, low risk devices. They won't even take them in for consideration. They've deemed all LEDs to be safe. That's not true with lasers. Lasers still have to be evaluated by the FDA. LEDs are safe and non-invasive. You don't need the goggles. They're not going to penetrate. They're not going to heat up your tissue. Where lasers can pose the safety concerns, and you definitely want to be concerned about your eyes and wearing the laser or the glasses with that. LEDs are less expensive per milliwatt than a laser is, by far. That's been the biggest challenge, is people feel like, oh, I have to spend a lot more money to get effective tools to work. And that's not true. So how does it even work? Well, when the light is applied to your skin, this is actually the light, and we're going to just put it on the skin. We'll put it here. I don't know if you can see through my hand or not, but we like to apply directly to. When you have an LED, the further away you have it, the less intense you're going to deliver the light into the skin. So as it travels through the skin, it stimulates the mitochondria in the cells. This starts a chain reaction, sends a signal up to the brain that says, increase my ATP production. This starts a chain reaction with the body, and it says, come back and heal. It releases the endorphins, the serotonins, the anti-inflammatories, and it says, hey, you forgot about this. Kind of like putting jumper cables on a dead battery, and restarts those cells. So that's, in a nutshell, how it works with our bodies, all going on at the cellular level. But here's a fun fact I want to share with you, because this is another thing that we get a lot. Lasers penetrate deeper, but they don't. Depth of penetration is solely dependent upon the wavelength. The shorter the wavelength, the less deep that they'll go into your body. So the UV and the purple and the blue just barely get to that epidermis level, and they get down in the dermis, and we keep going as we get higher in the wavelengths. Your body does not know, nor does it care, if that red photon came from a laser or from an LED. It knows it's a red photon. And as I mentioned earlier, once that photon hits the skin and the body fluids, it's going to scatter and become non-coherent anyway. So what happens at that point? Okay, all of this starts that cellular reaction that lowers your pain, reduces inflammation, improves your lymphatic drainage, it increases your circulation, and it stimulates cellular repair. Now, if you think about those things, if you have less pain, you have more circulation, you have less inflammation, things are moving better, what isn't that going to give a positive effect on? We don't focus on, well, I've got this condition, I've got that condition. Like, this is what it's going to do for your body. Would that help you? And by the way, it also helps to prevent aging-related issues. If we can be better as we are younger, as we get older, we won't have the same issues. So let's not wait until we can't get out of the chair without some help. Let's do something while we still are healthy. And when we don't think, oh, you know, I'm only 25 years old, or my dog's only 2 or 3 years old. Why would they need any kind of therapy like this? Because you don't want to have issues later on, right? And if you're in performance, maybe you're in agility or duck diving or whatever you want to do with your pet, we can help them get prepared for their performance, and we can help them when they come back from that performance to kind of like solidify again. So when they exert like that, we want to give them that boost to help them, and we want to help them calm back down when they come down. So the lights can help in every capacity of your pet's life, in your life, and it doesn't really matter what the issue is that we're working with, as long as we can lower pain, reduce inflammation, move your lymphatic, increase your circulation, and stimulate cellular repair. Stimulating cellular repair means accelerating wound healing. And I've got years and years of experience of things that have healed so much faster just by using the lights with them. In fact, a quick story, I had shattered my wrist. You know, that's one of the most common things that happen when you get older, is you will shatter your wrist because you try to break your fall, because falls are a big thing that happens as we get older. And they put the plate and the screws and everything like that in there. And a week or 10 days later, when I went back and I saw them, they were like, well, the lady's like, well, show me. She's like, oh, that looks really good. You're a great healer. I said, I know, I've been using my lights. And she says, well, tell me about that. So I was explaining to her how I was using the lights and making this. I mean, you can't even see the scar. And she's like, wow. The doctor comes in, he goes, show me your range of motion. I'm doing these kind of things like that. And he goes, well, you're not going to need to go to physical therapy. I said, I know, I've been using my lights. And he's like, whatever. I mean, he totally did not care. He didn't want to know. And then I went in a couple months later and they took the plates and everything out. And so they've actually gone through here twice. And you can't even see that scar. So I use my lights for that. We talked a minute ago about red and infrared are the most common colors that people have used. Not with us. The Visum Light takes red and infrared, blue and green, for starters, and then we combine colors and we do blue and green together, and we'll get a magenta. You can see that on my skin. Even though I've got red and blue applied to my body, my brain sees and processes a third color. We have a really excellent blog about this. the cones in your eyes will average those colors and sends that color to your brain. We all know the powerful suggestion of the brain. So suggesting colors to the brain also gives it a healing fact. So you get this 1-2 punch. You don't just get the colors that are on the pad. Nobody else does this because nobody else has the ability to add blue and green together and look at the beautiful turquoise color that you get. Turquoise is the most soothing color that we can work with. It's awesome for putting us into the parasympathetic state. We put red and green on together and you'll see yellow. And yellow is great for things like our digestive issues, any kind of liver, intestinal. It helps our thymus gland. It's the color of our chakras as well. So the colors of the light do align a lot with the colors of our chakra. The red is our root chakra, blue is our throat, green's our heart. The white is our crown. So if you know anything about chakras, that the energy that you get from that, you'll get through the lights as well. But really quickly, this is a screen that you might want to take a screenshot of because this is kind of at a real high level what those colors do, what their benefits are, and what ailments we use them for. I get people all the time saying, well, I just turn them all on. Well, then you're working with white. Are you trying to reduce wrinkles? No, I just want them all on. Okay. We want people to purposefully work with the color that they need to work with. So for instance, green is my favorite color of all. And we'll take off red, green. Green is so soothing. We call it the great balancer because it's right smack in the middle of the light spectrum. You know, we got red over here that's an exciting color and blue over here that's a soothing color. Green's in the middle. So we call it our great balancer. Well, it's more than that. The researchers are finally getting behind the green light and they're finding out how effective it is for pain reduced. Because it actually releases 10 times the oxygen that's stuck in our blood than the red does. So 6 or 7 years ago, when we came out with the all light green light, I said, green is the new red. And I stand behind that to this day. So we've got the great energizer, which is the exciting red color, which really gets circulation going. We've got blue, which is we call the great antiseptic. It's soothing and cooling, but it also is antibacterial and antifungal. So now we can have a tool that we can add infrared in with each of those. Infrared is going to allow that all to go in a little bit deeper, and infrared's going to go deeper. So by adding infrared with your colors, again, there's not another tool that lets you do that. I think there's a company coming out with a green pad this year, but it's a green pad. You still have to buy it. That's all it is. You can't change the colors and you don't have these different frequencies. We are cordless and completely cordless. This little guy is your brains and your butt and everything and your battery, and it just goes on and it snaps on like that and it holds on, and it's just phenomenal because you can take it with you anywhere that you want to go. So magenta is a color that combines the red and the blue, and you receive the benefits of those. Yellow is the red and the green. We talked about that a minute ago. Turquoise. When I think about turquoise, though, I can see myself sitting on a chair on a beach with a breeze and the calm waves coming up on the shore and the blue sky, and I am already in a parasympathetic state. So that's a great one for people that have any kind of emotional stress, just really have a hard time relaxing and letting things go. So that is the colors that we use. We call this true polychromatic colors because as you combine the colors, you actually receive a third color versus just combining two colors like red and infrared. Still get your red because you can't see your infrared. But when you put green and red together, you'll get your yellow. So to me, that's what polychromatic colors are, but that's our definition, and probably only our definition. So not only do we use colors, we use sound. Okay. So these are the most common sound frequencies. We use the Nogier frequencies, and we'll come back to that in a second. Solfeggio are the ones that you hear, like the Buddhist monks. You'll hear them chanting that, and there's a real monotone to that. It's very calming. I actually have this on a Pandora station that I go to sleep to at night, and find that very awesome. Rife, a lot of people have Rife machines. He's got, I don't know how many thousand frequencies are in his machine. I don't know a lot about it. I don't have one myself, but I know they're very effective for people that do have them. The Fibonacci is a mathematical equation that you'll see in nature. And once it's pointed out to you, you'll start seeing it. You'll see it in pine cones. You'll see it in flowers. You'll see it in seashells. That is a sound frequency, believe it or not. And then the Schumann resonance, that is the resonance of the earth. And if you've been paying attention the last couple of days, that resonance has been off. And they're talking about that it's been off by a fair factor. It usually is pretty set, right about 7.8 hertz, I want to say. But they're finding it up into the 11 hertz. And so if you're feeling weird, there's a lot of reasons for that right now. But we focus on the Nogier frequencies. Okay, Dr. Paul Nogier was really involved in studying the body. And when you're born, our cellular structures are resonating at a certain frequency. But as we get older and we do things to ourselves and whatever happens in our lives, those get out of sync. And so by applying the frequencies back to the body, it helps you do that again. There is a really great video where they have all these, help me with the word there, metronomes for music, where they click back and forth. And they've got 5 or 6 of them on a stand. Was that?
The metronome.
A metronome, thank you.
Yes.
And they just start them all at different frequencies or at different times. And so they're all kind of doing their thing. Within about 30 seconds, they start all going together. It's phenomenal. You can watch it on YouTube, just search it. So there's a lot to be said about being in sync with the right frequencies. Okay. So we wanted to add this. That's the difference between the all lights and the Visum lights, is that we've added these sound frequencies. But I want to share with you a couple of my favorite experiences that we've had recently. You know, I haven't met a dog that doesn't love this therapy. And this little guy over here, I was over at my friend's house and I just put the pad on him, and you can see him yawning right there. I mean, that's a real instant release that you know is happening. And so I was then out in the barn working on their horses, and the dog came out, so I put the pad back on it, and this is what happened. I'm trying to leave.
Showing Sharon and does not want her to leave. I mean, that is just huge. Can you please leave that pad here?
So, and then this lady is one of my partners, my business partners, and we were at the vet conference in Dallas last year, and this puppy was there, and it's the first time this puppy's ever been into any kind of a trade show, and it was pretty anxious. And so Paula took the time to put the pad on him and use the green, and this is how it ended.
Oh. Oh, and there's the thank you. Oh, very good.
When we get that, it just makes my heart so warm to know that we have impacted an animal in a positive way. When they're in a stressful situation like that, they can still take the time to be gracious. So Love that. Let's see if we can get out of that one. We have vets that are using our lights. This is our handheld light. And you can see anywhere from an 18-year-old dog to a 2-year-old dog. He's using the lights. The bigger the dog, the faster they're going to have problems. That 2-year-old dog is a big dog, and he's already got a partial tear in the cruciate ligament. So we don't have to have just senior pets to have issues and to keep them from having issues. This is a combination of just, again, with the handheld, you can see all the different colors. This little guy had him back on bladder 13. Now that I know how important that point is, I put the 2 on him. You can't really see that he's yawning down there, but when he comes up for air, you can really see he gives it a big release. But we're using all the different colors. Here he's got blue. I'm guessing there's an acute swelling right there and probably a hot spot. Here he's got, looks to me like he's got yellow, so he's got green on and possibly red, but he's not really doing a digestive thing. So it might just be green in the way that the cameras pick that up, because the dog does look like it has a little bit of anxiety. Here it's working on a dog, the top picture and the bottom picture, the same dog, definitely got lower back problems, and he's using the, looks to me like the turquoise and the magenta. And here's our vet friend that's using just the blue. And over here, again, he's just, he might just have the infrared on because you can't see anything. And the dog is just sitting there. They don't have to be held, enjoying and showing its expression for that. So not only do we have the handheld, we have pads that are made for smaller pets. We have what we call our tiny pad or our curve pad, which works great around our neck, our knee, our elbow, but it fits around a little dog's shoulders or their belly. And then when we get into the our small pad, you can see that it fits the smaller dogs. And my cat, this is my cat down here. He loves his pad. I've got magenta on, so I've got blue and red on at the same time, and probably infrared. He's got a lot of things going on, and we might not have him for a lot longer, but as long as we do, he loves to just lay under his pad. And you can put them on and tighten them on like we have here in this bottom corner where we've actually got it fastened on the dog. Or if they're laying down, I just leave the pad on them until they leave. It comes off at 20 minutes. If they're still there, I might go back and put another 10 minutes on and see. Or if they get up and leave at 2 minutes, they've had enough. Don't chase them. They're going to tell you what they need. They know. They don't need to. Oh, if we could just hear more of what they tell us, you know. And then we've got the medium and the large dog. So the medium, it actually fits a pretty good sized dog. That's a Rottweiler and an Aussie. And then the large dog, that's a big husky, and it fits a mini horse because I have mini horses. And so it's very difficult to find therapy tools that will fit them. So this particular pad will fit both of those. So I like to put it on, let him, like this guy here in the corner, just hangs out and just until he's done. And he had a lot of arthritis issues as well. The big dogs, he's only, I think he was 11 or 12 years old. And it was so arthritic, you know, because they waited too long for one thing to get something started. But those kind of dogs are prone to having those kind of issues. Maybe you're dealing with a behavior issue, you know, an aggressive dog. So I was called over to this lady's house. She wanted me to come over and work on her dog. I got there, it showed up with a muzzle on it. I was like, you work on your dog. I don't know, you know, if they're going to be aggressive, I don't care if they have a muzzle on. Well, so I showed her what to do. And she started with the handheld light and put it on his hips. And then we worked a little more on the lower back. And this was the result of that action. He was laid down asleep and Was no longer that aggressive guard dog that he was. This is another friend of mine. She does dock diving with this little guy. Well, apparently there's a condition that they can get called swimmer's tail, where it pulls all the muscles in the back there, and their tail drops. And it usually takes a couple of weeks for them to recover. Well, she said that she used the light on him for 10 minutes, and within 2 hours, he was completely back to normal. And they got reserve champion that weekend, I believe. So they work. The only reason they wouldn't work is if they sit on the shelf and you don't have them with you, right? So how do you know where to go? You know, there's a lot of devices out there. You can go to Amazon and get completely overwhelmed right off the get-go. Or you can work with companies that have been around for a while that actually are doing what we want to do. We're transparent. You know, you want to ask the questions. Does it have multiple functionalities, or is it just, you know, like an all light where you've got one option to it? Or can you change your colors, you know, and is there a timer so you can change that? Or are they just going to come on or they're going to shut off after 3 minutes? I have a company that I'm aware of that is bragging about a handheld light, comparing it kind of to the Visum, and saying that in 3 minutes, it will deliver the optimal joules that you need. So I got a couple of concerns about that. First, they don't ever tell you what those optimal joules are. Second, nobody knows what the optimal joules are for anybody, because it's different. It's different for you. It's different for me. It's different for me from one day to the next. And there is not a set protocol, which has probably been my biggest challenge with this light, is giving people a way to do it, because there isn't a way to do anything. You can do it many different ways, and you really can't go wrong. It can be more effective. People want to have A plus B equals C, and we're dealing with energy. So it's not necessarily that way. But I did find out that the reason there was a 3-minute timer on that light has nothing to do with the joules. It has to do with the battery capacity. So don't get wrapped up in people's marketing. Really try to dig down. The big thing you want to dig down to is, are they transparent with their testing? Do they actually take their products to a testing lab and have them tested in an integrated sphere, have it published without manipulating the information? And I can tell you that 95% of the manufacturers out there do not do that step, because it's expensive. They don't like the results that they're getting, so they're like, oh, well, we'll just ignore them then. Or they want to overstate their power, because we have the mindset that more is better, bigger is best, faster is the way we want to go. But when we're working with energy, low and slow is the way to go. So you don't want to throw something. You don't water your garden with the fire hose. You water it with a drip line. And that's how we apply the light therapy to us as well. So again, when you're looking at these things, you know, are they transparent about that? Are they giving you the information in milliwatts per centimeter squared? And when you start getting into those kind of numbers, most people don't even understand what that means. And so you just want to know if your manufacturer is here to stay, or if they just jumping on the bandwagon because all of a sudden now everybody knows about red light therapy and they're trying to sell you something. You know, and the last thing that I actually check is the price, because to me, that's one of the least important factors when you're looking for a tool like this. You want to know, is this the tool that's going to work for you? You want to know, is this a company like the Visum Light, who has been honored to be one of the top 10 light therapy device providers for 2023? We've been acknowledged for that. And so we've got that for you too. But we would love to have you stay in touch. This is our different ways that we are out there. We just got done redoing our entire YouTube channel, so all of the videos are fresh, which shows that they have not a lot of views on them. So please go out there, give us a view, give us a thumbs up on them. We needed to start over with that, and so we did. So when you come to our website, you'll see an invitation to download a 58-page guide that we have, the complete guide to light and sound therapy. We have all kinds of information in there. So we don't want you to feel like, I don't know where to start. You're going to start with a free 58-page book. And you're going to find that on our website at visumlight.com/New Earth Vet. That we have a little surprise for you and a special thank you. We want to honor an additional 10% for all of our products on the Visum site. Even the pads that are on sale, the more pads you buy, the more discount you get on those. Well, you're still going to get an additional 10% by using the code Love My Dog. And that will end on October 31st, 2024. So I really appreciate your time. And I am ready to field some questions.
You're right. There's so many products out there. You know, everyone sort of, if you get on Amazon too, if that's where you buy your medical stuff, I don't advise that. But anyway, if you're doing that, I mean, you can look at this vast array, and you can get literally little pointers that have the one beam, you know, and it's called a red light therapy, and you can get them for $20 sometimes, I think, you know. And the whole point is that, like, veterinarians are, and I'm going to move into laser for a second. In laser, they're always told the best, you know, the highest power is the best because you get the most penetration, right? And so they're pushing it from that angle, right? And the thing about this type of thing, it works in a completely different way. You don't need the penetration. You don't need to warm up tissues. You don't need to, or if I can be blatant, you don't want to cook tissues, you know, with a too much power. So, which we can be done with the class 4 lasers.
Absolutely.
You know, as in less than a second in your eye will damage your retina. That's why I've got to wear the goggles, right?
Right.
You know, but with yours, it's you know, it's like going, I imagine it's like going out into sunlight, getting all those different wavelengths, getting the, you know, that therapeutic effect. So you've got the handheld, you've got the pads. Does it matter where you apply them?
Great question. So the handheld is intended to be more targeted. So like if we're putting ourselves into the parasympathetic state, that, but I also can do that with a smaller pad. When I was working on my wrist, but I didn't have the pads at the time. So before we had the pads, we only had the handheld, and then we were working on targeted areas, and you can put like a little silicone sleeve over this and cover up the diodes. And now you can use this one for acupressure points as well. Since I started using acupressure points with the All Light, I can see the value for that and continuing that. So I wanted this one to do that. Then the pads are just more general. You can place them over more areas, bigger areas. I love them both. I do use the pads. Oops, upside down. I use the pads a lot because I find them convenient. Like with this guy, I can turn it on, I can slip it in the top of my shorts and walk around and do something. If I got a stomach ache, I don't have to hold it. On this one, I don't hold it as much either because I find ways that I can stick it in shorts and I put it in a sock before and strapped it over the back here because I didn't have anything else to use. Use what you got. That is for sure. This was intended more to be done in an office setting. It's easier to clean and keep, you know, like if somebody is working with patients, this is easier to use at home where you don't have to think about it as much. This one will also tell you how many joules you're getting, which is something that's important to a physician and a practitioner who is tracking that. We need more people to track that so we can build that database to find out how many joules somebody did use on something like that. Well, how do they know how many joules are coming out of something? This one will, you have the ability to do that on this one because it's intended for that level of So I made the mistake of offering this light, and it goes to everybody. And so people immediately think highest intensity, all the lights, my device is getting warm. Yeah, it's not intended to run like that, you know. You use what you need, not what's just because it's there.
Right.
That's
Well, if I'm on a long phone call, this gets warm,
absolutely.
right? It's called discharging. So that's what happens. So if I get your unit because my dog has a sore hip, do I have to apply it to the hip, or can I apply it somewhere else and that benefit will hit the hip?
You can do both, but if I know I got a sore hip, I'm going to turn this thing on. I'm going to put red, infrared. We've got pre-programmed patterns. One of them is for pain. Going to go to P3, which is pain, and I'm going to set it right on that hip. I'm going to work just gently over the hip. You know, you always want to do, like someone says, oh, but it's the right hip. You're going to do the left hip too, because that thing is working twice as hard to keep going because the right hip has got a flat tire on it, right? So you've got, you want to, and you can, through acupoints, that's the whole theory of acupoints is some of those points tell the body what to do, and some of those points tell it where to do it. And so that's where the recipes for acupoints come together, and where you can do indirect healing. So you've got your indirect healing, and then you've got your direct healing.
Yeah, and that's the way that I've used our unit, you know, and that is it's as in, hey, it's good for a bladder problem, for example, right? But you don't have to go and sit it on the bladder. You know, you can, you know, but the other side, like I say, if you've got one hip that's sore and the other one's sore as well, you don't have to direct it to both. You know, you just to go down there, and it will work.
Right.
You know, so that's the beauty with this. Ironically, the high-powered lasers used in vet hospitals have to be applied directly to the area of concern. So if you've got and the key is this, if you've got pain in your left hip and right hip, yeah, you've got to do the left hip and then you've got to do the right hip. You know, because they're directed. They don't treat the body, so to speak.
Right. You know, and that's the neat thing about the lights. When you ask that question, you can put the light on your body and it's going to travel through and affect where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Like taking an aspirin, you take an aspirin orally for a headache. You know, it doesn't, you don't put the aspirin on the headache, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The way it was described to me was very simple. And that is, as you apply it to the skin here, the light goes through, the light then excites things, I'll say call them things, in the water, which then allows it to propagate throughout all the water in the body.
Right.
You
That's
know,
the infrared.
and it carries it for that reason.
That's the use of the infrared. Red is more impacting with the blood, and infrared impacts more with the water in our body. And we're what, 90% water. So adding the infrared was an aha moment for all of us. You know, it's like, but go back, you know, in 1999, people thought I was crazy just using a red light.
Yeah, that's right.
I couldn't dispute it because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. No, I took an acupuncture course, and one of the things they taught me, this was back in about just before 2000. And back in those days, they were talking, oh yeah, you can stimulate the acupuncture points with a red, they call it laser, you know, but the point is like a pointer, right? And I tried that. I got a really high quality pointer and I was doing that. I don't think it did very much, you know, so.
Well, the thing about acupressure points, they want to be whispered to. They don't want to be shouted at. you don't want to come at them with a strong, high-powered light. You just want to tap them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we were trying to drill them. Yeah. But anyway, that's the way that went. So thank you very much for coming on board, Sharon. That is a really good introduction for everybody to look at light and a little bit of sound therapy there, and it has so much advantages. It's not just for, gee, I've got an arthritic cat. My dog's got a skin problem or something like that, a bit of allergy or something. It works on so much, And I think that's the thing that we're going to find over time, isn't it? And that is we're going to get this information out, and hey, it's going to be working for all this stuff. And as you know, the same thing happens in people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and the thing is, this is the beauty. Side effects,
None.
zero, right? So that's what we want. So thank you for coming and revealing all this to everybody. It's very much appreciated. And thank you everyone for watching.
That has joined us
a little bit. And that way you can get out there and start looking at this promising alternative type of treatment. Thank you.
The only time it doesn't work is if it's sitting over there on the shelf and not in your hands being applied.
There you go. Yeah. So the good point.
Thank you for including us.
You're very welcome. So thank you, everybody. We'll catch you in the next webinar.